Hey there, AfterBuzzers. Welcome and get ready because we got a great show here for you today with The Profit here on AfterBuzz TV, and people are calling already. Stay tuned. Here we go.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yay!
Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, welcome to AfterBuzz TV and The Profit with Marcus Lemonis, our after show breakdown. We're doing today episodes 16 and 17, so very excited to break this down for you. I'm Chris Howard. You can reach out to me. I just did my first Snapchat, I think. So you can reach out to me at Chris Howard Live on Twitter and Instagram. You can also reach me at Chris Howard. Jeez, what is it? It's legendarylivingdaily.com and legendarylivingtv.com. Here's the ladies. Over here to my left is the one, the only
Miss Niena Drake. Hey everybody. Hey guys.
Hello.
And you guys can find me on all social media, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Periscope, and everything after that. Not at Niena Drake. And then my website is nienadrake.com.
She's so well organized. Mm-hmm. Yes.
She's well organized. I'm going to need to take some tutorials from Niena here because I'm not as social media savvy, although I'm getting there. You can reach me. I'm your host, co-host, Katerina Cozias, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram, available to you at Katerina Cozias.
Katerina? You tripped over the T.
It's Katerina. I mean, it depends how ethnic you want to get.
Okay, all right.
Or we can get creative.
I didn't hear any difference between them, but...
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, just call me Kat.
I must not be an Eskimo. Okay, anyway, let's break down these episodes. We are in episode number 16. This is Kota Longboards. Yeah,
yes.
So longboards. Had you ladies ever heard of longboards before?
I've heard of them.
Huh?
I've been a skateboard rider, but I haven't rode a longboard before, so it's a little different, but yeah similar concept.
I hadn't heard of longboards before. What I have heard of is snowboards.
Snowboards.
I'm Canadian,
Yes.
so a board is a board, a skateboard, of course.
A.
But longboards, no. I haven't heard of them.
You haven't heard of longboards?
No, so I found this an interesting episode because
I went British. I went British when I was trying to do Canadian. Anyway,
you're jealous of my ethnicity.
That's it.
That's right.
Okay, so you
I'm
haven't heard of
calling you
longboards.
Chris Howardakis.
Chris Howardakis.
There you go.
There you go. That's a Greek thing, right?
That's a little Greek last name for you.
A little Greek thing. So you said you were saying something about
longboards, snowboards. All of these are cool sports to do, but no, longboards were unfamiliar to me before this episode.
Right. So I've seen them.
Cruiser. It's like more of a where skateboard
like
you can do like more
cruiser.
tricks.
Yeah.
They're more of a cruiser. It's like having like a BMX bike versus a regular cruiser bike.
Uh-huh.
Like it's same functionality,
right?
Just a different vibe.
So we mostly see like the BMX things, and then all of a sudden it's like in relationship to I'm thinking of beach cruisers, like they got those cool
with the
beach
basket in the front.
I
mean, they're not exact, but just similar if you're assimilating them to like a bicycle ride.
I was doing the best I could. Maybe it doesn't work.
No, that's right. No, it's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah.
They're a little bit more chill.
Yeah.
People kind of.
I'm sure if we go down to Venice Beach, we'll see them there.
I've seen a few of them a couple of times, but
they're more expensive, so that's probably why we don't see as many because they are more.
They go to different beaches than us.
They can be. I should say that they can be more expensive than a skateboard.
Interesting.
Some skateboards are very expensive. Like when you get into customizing all the different elements of it, like. When I first bought my first skateboard, like I had to get the cheap boy. I had 3.
Okay. 3 skateboards.
Really?
Cool.
You don't look like a boarder.
Yeah. When I was younger, I did. Yeah. My older brother he rode a skateboard, so that's what got me into skateboarding. I did with my, he had to take me with him where he went. The little sister syndrome, and he hated it, but I wanted to do the fun sports stuff that he did, and so I got a skateboard. And that's how I started skateboarding. Yeah, okay. I miss it too.
There you go. Do you?
I just don't want to fall off and hurt myself now. I feel like I'm. Maybe a little past it.
You're past your prime. You're past your skateboarding
prime. But moving to LA, low key, like kind of got me back in the vibe. Like I really want to get. I want to get a new skateboard. Honestly,
maybe you should
not
get a Kota Longboard.
Maybe not a Kota Longboard, but a skateboard.
Who knows? So when you look at these Kota Longboards, but Mike was making them. Now Kota was that is an acronym for Knights of the Air. So he was a jet fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Huh? So he brought that?
Mm-hmm. He brought that in, and it's nice to be able to take, your passion and work it towards a new passion later in life.
Did you see the infusion of that in other places other than the name, the jet fighting?
The design.
Some of the design?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean,
how did you see it evidenced inside the skateboards? Because I didn't quite pick that up. I was looking for it in certain places. Was it in the actual drawings and artwork, or was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, because the same design of the board itself is consistent, but when it came to designing the colors and the specific artwork that was on the boards, that was where he put his spin on it.
And you actually saw a lot of his of that sort of paraphernalia in his office as well.
Yeah,
there were a lot of Top Gun looking photos.
His Navy hoodie on and all that good stuff. I mean, he represented
You could see he had a passion for it.
And the design of the boards was really cool. I liked it.
Very well made, beautiful. They were very beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful. They now the price point was too high, right?
300 plus.
300
Nobody's
plus.
paying that, or unless you just want it as like a novelty thing or something cool to say that you have. It's more of an investment as an art piece versus a functionality of a sports.
Well, you know what?
piece.
What I found interesting was the fact that he couldn't pinpoint his demographic. When Marcus first asked him, he said, "Well, between 30 and 70."
Like, who has a demographic?
Between 30 and 70.
Who's your
audience?
clientele? From
everybody.
30 to 70. Okay.
No marketing person in business is ever going to create a demographic window of 30 to 70. Like,
40 years.
where did he get that from?
Well, and that's probably
No, it just shows that he wasn't a marketing person. That's the problem.
Yeah, incorrectly.
He had a great product, but but that was the whole issue, was knowing who he was selling it to and what price point they'd actually purchase at. So he seemed to be off base, and he brought up at one point he talked about the art of war. He says kind of like the art of war, go where your enemies aren't.
Come on, now. Anybody in business? You guys,
well, I think Marcus was going to jump off his chair when he heard that. He was just like, "Oh my!"
You can't see our faces, but you can totally hear us. And you heard that moment of silence. We were all like, "What foolishness school did you go to?" Because when you think about it, if McDonald's wants to build a new restaurant in the neighborhood, where are they going to set up? Right across from
Taco Bell or Burger King.
Like, who in the world comes up with this strategy? This new
go where nobody wants to go. That's it.
Do you really want to sell anything? No, you don't, because you're not thinking. Like, that's ridiculous.
But it's interesting because he hadn't given it any thought. Well, he gave it a little thought. He's like, we want to market everybody else. We want to market to everybody who doesn't buy, is what he said. That's essentially what he said. We want to market to everybody that doesn't buy.
I think his ego got in the way,
To give Mike some credit, though, I mean, he did know that he had to raise the price. He had to raise or expand the demographic age range to justify the price point.
Right, but it still didn't justify his.
They're trying to justify the unjustifiable.
He said, a 55-year-old can pay $350. Well, how many 55-year-olds are longboarding?
Let's sell it to them.
But they're afraid of breaking their hips, so nobody's going to buy the damn longboard there, mister. Like, duh.
But, it's one of you just mentioned that you thought Mike's ego got in the way. And, we're kind of laughing a little bit here. It's easy to backseat drive, but I thought so too. Where did you think his ego got in the way?
He thought he knew everything. First of all, coming up with a quote-unquote strategy, because I just can't think of another word for it right now, but there was no strategy.
They're feeling feisty today.
This uncalculated method of trying to create a whole new business market with no sort of research or anything that made sense.
Remind me how long they had been in business for. Did they mention that?
Since
3 years.
Yeah,
they were on their 3 years because when Marcus and the husband and wife team were going over the numbers, they were in there. They were actually in their third year.
Oh, okay.
So it was like you're 3 years in and you
haven't turned a profit.
Right. And most of the employees had been there, 9 months?
9 months turnover immediately. And in the 5 weeks that Marcus came into the situation, they all had 100% turnover again. So have every seat in the room.
What's
Mike and whatever
that?
Mike.
Yeah.
He was just horrible.
Yeah. So well, let's take a look at that. So when Marcus first came in, he goes to the manufacturing plant. He takes a look, as he does, at the people and the process, and then he goes into the books.
What
y'all notice in that conversation that stands out to you?
So there's a couple things.
Yeah.
starting with the employees of Josh. Josh invested $50,000. He was an investor and an employee, and he was working for free.
So Josh is working in the facilities. He's working for free.
As an investor.
As an investor.
Marcus was like, where did you find this guy? How come I didn't get to him first?
By the way, I had people like that would help along the way too. That were just as passionate. That were so passionate about what you were doing that they wanted to, they wanted to jump in and do it.
But if you're not going to invest capital into a project, become an equity owner in essence, you can still reserve the right to pull out a salary for yourself.
Well,
yes, but they weren't making anything.
Yeah.
Nobody was
getting a salary. If it was there to pull, there was nothing to pull.
Right.
That was the issue. Yeah.
But the thing is that what I thought was interesting is when they sat down and had the conversation about Marcus investing.
Yeah.
Mike mentioned that he had put in $500,000, right?
Right.
Mike was like, yeah, he's like, so they were calculating, so where's all the, the revenue, the investments, and the, the loss coming from? Yeah. And Mike is like, well, I put in, $500,000, blah, blah, whatever. And then the next day, we fast forward, and Marcus is like, so did anything change since I was here, since our conversation yesterday? Overnight, he clarified the fact that his investment had only been $20,000 in his
slight
magical
variance from the $500,000
in his
he had
magical imagination again of pulling numbers and calculations out of nowhere. He came up with this figure to validate the fact that 1, he hadn't taken a profit, 2, that his intellectual property of creating the longboards and design and the company itself was worth this $500,000.
Now, how much of that? I won't call it a lie per se, but how much of that?
You can call it a lie.
Story. How much of that story do you think Mike was feeding himself all this time?
All of it.
Yeah. No. Well, hold on a second. Okay. So you want to keep it real, Katerina? What are your real thoughts? Keep it real.
Real thoughts.
What do you think about that? About the fuzzy accounting there?
It was fuzzy accounting. I think he was well aware of what he was doing, but I think he would also go home at night and say, I'm doing it for the right reasons, and not be aware enough to realize.
So he was justifying it.
He was justifying it to himself, I believe.
He made up some reason to believe it,
right?
And it was good enough for him.
Yeah.
So first of all, Mike was a bad business person. That's 1. Okay. 2, he was not justifying anything because he was a bad person when it came to dealing with other people.
He wasn't a good manager.
He was a horrible manager. Yes, he had come up with a great product and a great design, but that was all that was there. Even his wife was embarrassed.
And I agree with you, because if you have good management, whether or not a company goes into a downward spiral or not, if you've got the right management in place, you can usually retain your staff.
So the
fact that they were also losing staff, the attrition was happening so quickly.
And remember, he said at some point, speaking, the attrition, all that stuff was a result. I agree with both of you that it was a result of the mismanagement of things, but his real skill wasn't the management; it was the design.
No, it was horrible. And
that was the magic.
But again, that's where ego comes into play, because if you recognize that is where your strength lies, then hire an operating manager.
But he was too caught up in the control. He was controlling. He was, inefficient. He was not good with math. He was not good with people. He just needed.
Did you like anything about him?
No, he needed a whole staff.
He needed a team, but he also needed someone to move him to the side and actually position the company in a way for it to grow. Because unfortunately, he was running it through the ground. There was nothing there of value except for the quality of the product.
Which is something to say though, because the quality of the product is, it's essential. It's one of the staple pieces of what needs to be there. Yeah. It's just that if the ego gets in the way of having the other staple pieces, that's when we have a problem.
And clearly Marcus saw enough potential in the product, to say, hey, these other two, and the people,
He did like the people, although half the people weren't there anymore in short order.
Showed up,
and you know what I liked? You know what I was concerned about in watching the episode was that as people were falling off, whether they were going to get an opportunity to explain as to why they decided to leave the company in the first place. Because we see that happen sometimes in the show, and we don't always get full clarification as to why they left or not.
We don't always get full clarification of that in the work environment when it happens in the world.
We absolutely don't.
It's like, hello, 3 people disappeared. What for? Oh, they're gone.
We never get that. But I think it was great. Yeah, it was really, really, really great that Marcus called the meeting, and he not only had the business owners there, but he had the employees that decided to step away, and he gave an open, safe space to have that conversation and explain to everyone as to why things weren't working. And when things came out, there was a consistent issue with Mike as the manager, and it all came down to him not caring about people and being selfish and his ego getting in the way.
Yeah, we saw that too. Also, where were you going to go?
Oh no, go ahead.
Because I was going to bring up the deal structure.
I was going to say
and
what
the
was the offer that Marcus
So the
pitched?
offer was what? Marcus was going to come in at 300.
$300,000 for 40%.
For 40%.
And 40%, that 40%, he was taking out of his own percentage an additional 15%.
Which he was going to give.
Yes, he was going to give to 3 of the other top main managers who were helping create
2 managers
the product.
and Josh.
And Josh,
Josh
right, who had invested. So of the $300,000, $50,000 was going to go back to Josh, and
So
he was going to
pay
get 5%.
Josh off.
Yes.
So he, even though he paid $50,000 of his own money into the corporation, he was working for free. He was going to give him that money back so that all things could be created equal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, Sandy and Chris, who were the other 2 managers at the business, they were going to get 5%. Not any money, so to speak, but they were just going to get 5%. So
They had an equity stake.
Yeah, and Marcus
to
was taking
motivate
that,
them, to give them some incentive to
which
reduce.
is very, very admirable and made great business sense and just personal sense in dealing with the staff. But it wasn't like Marcus was taking it out of Mike's equity. He was taking that 40% out of his 40% that he was, investing, and I thought that was really dope of him.
Well, and Mike originally, upon hearing this, thought that it was a fair deal, and he shook on it.
Right.
And
but
then
you saw his face though. Mike, he never believed Marcus.
Now, what do you think, though? Do you think that Mike was more upset by the fact that he was giving up 40% equity, or by the fact that his employees were going to be the partakers of 15% of that? Which part do you think?
All of the above.
All of the above.
In addition,
he seemed to be really tweaked out about the employees.
In addition, it was ego too, and it was him. And I don't know if anybody else caught this, but
we may not be as sharp as you.
But
we'll
no,
see.
watch. Let me explain.
Go.
Tell us what you saw. What did you see?
So it wasn't just. This is when Marcus and they were all standing in the factory.
Yeah.
And Marcus made the announcement that they shook hands on the deal, and he was breaking down to the employees.
And
what the
none
next
of the
steps
employees were happy.
Well,
is that what you're gonna say?
They were subtly happy, but this is where I feel like was like the low-key underlying issue that Mike had.
Yeah.
Mike saw this as Marcus taking control over the business, and he shook hands and he agreed upon it at the table and was like, yeah, I get that. But when they were all standing against, with the employees in the factory, Mike saw that as like shade. Like, oh, my employees, one, they don't trust me, they don't respect me, and not only do they not trust and respect me, but they're going to trust and respect Marcus.
Yeah, because Marcus is going to be the white knight.
Right, he's coming in to save the day. Did you see that?
I did see that.
There was a little bit of that.
Yeah,
I caught a little bit of that.
I actually thought, why did Marcus? Here's what popped into my head. Why did he give the 15% from his side? Like, he made an effort to say it that way.
Because I think he was trying to be fair as he could to Mike, without pulling the rug out from under him.
But why didn't he let Mike save face and be the hero?
Because you know what, he knew. This is what I love about Marcus. Marcus, hey Marcus, hey.
Hey Marcus, hey.
Hey. He is a great judge of character, right?
Yeah.
Marcus can spot a shady person a mile away, and this was a test. Marcus didn't do it because he
was already picking up red flags. He was already picking up red flags about the character, and he wanted to. And that could be very much the case, because I agree with you. He is a very good judge of character, and he, in terms of the employees, he may have very well also not just a test toward Mike, but he could have been saying, "Hey, I get the pain you've been feeling, and we're going to relieve it." So he might have created that differentiation between him and Mike purposefully, in order for them to know that there was really going to be a change.
Well, I don't think Marcus had the intention of making Mike look bad. I want to clarify that. I don't think he did it to make Mike look bad. Yeah. I think what he was doing was, once again, putting his business, experience into play, and his psychology that he does so well, Marcus, by allowing the situation to kind of fold out. And he knew that Mike's ego was very sensitive.
Right.
And so for him to come to the table and say, well, I know this is what you should do as an owner and as a manager, and I'm expecting you to do this, as opposed to him having that conversation at all.
Right.
Marcus stepped up to the plate and was like, you know what, we're not even going to waste time with that, because I want to move forward and grow this business.
Like, and this is
what it should
and
be.
He did, and that was the point of it. Yeah, like
Katerina, what did you think about the just to get to the point? What did you think about the renegotiation that Mike tried to pull off?
So the renegotiation effort was dismal, only because they ended up at the same place they started. So Mike just ended up looking like a sore loser, like a bit of a sourpuss. They went through all of this. He angered and grieved and disappointed Marcus.
Right.
Only to come back to the original deal. I mean, it was silly. If I was Marcus, I would have walked away at that point.
I thought it was interesting.
I would have left.
See, I liked Marcus' strategy at this point when he says, okay, so you're saying that you don't want the employees to have 15%, especially, and we just found out that Chris had left. So Chris had been, was he fired or did he quit?
No, I think he quit.
He quit.
Everybody quit.
Yeah, everybody quit. So Chris had left. And we just found that out. So Marcus says, I'll tell you what, you don't want the employees to have 15%, so now I want more.
Right. Well, he was going to take that five that was remaining.
Yeah.
And
Marcus
take it
was like,
back in.
because he was investing.
Yeah.
And it came out of Marcus's 40%. It was right.
It was right, and it was making up for the fact that we've got some people leaving and stuff. So I get what Marcus was saying. You're going to change the deal. I'm going to change the deal.
Right.
So you only get it.
Right.
You know, you're still going to give up the 40.
Right.
But
then
you know,
Mike
I'm
stepped
keeping
up
some
and
more.
was like, well, I want that 5%. Boy, bye.
Yeah.
Instead of being, I agree with you
Get out
there.
here with
Instead
that.
of being grateful.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a thank you for still being here to work with me, even
I
though
agree
I'm
with you there.
a hot
Yes.
mess.
She's right.
Although, I mean, you can look at, there's so many different ways to look at it. And from the business owner standpoint, too, if, you know, because the moment you said the grateful, I remembered my last business where I went in with my business partner who was the investor, and I was feeling gratitude. I was so grateful. And he ended up putting $15,000. This was like my, you know, I had it for 10 years. Put a very little amount in. I just said it. You'll get it if you got it. And for 30% of the company as we were launching it, it was everything that was going on. And he said to me when he put it in, he's like, I only wish that, or he says, my hope is that someday you regret that you gave away so much for so little. And I thought, well, I'm never going to regret it. I'm so grateful. I was so taken aback by that. And later on, it would prove to be my initial assumption. I can't say I regret that, but I learned some things that would transform the nature of my thought about that. And it's like, well, you got to be switched on also as a business owner.
So what do you,
know?
how
you don't want to give away too much or be too grateful for too little upfront either. You know,
how important is keeping your equity ownership?
Oh, I think it's everything.
To you.
Yeah, keeping equity is like key.
Power.
Yeah, like even if you look at Rupert Murdoch's the News Corporation, he owns less than 30%, but he still has controlling interest. You know, Bill Gates owns less than 30% of Microsoft. You know, but he's still got a lot. So the people that have had great fortunes have held on to as much equity as long as possible in the game. But there's times that you give it away. There's times that you do things like that. And so I think it's really hugely important from you know, from a business owner perspective. And I also understand why somebody would want to bring in a partner. But there's lots of complications that come in there too. And
anytime you do a partnership deal.
Yeah, why would you want to give away 30% not knowing what they're going to put in yet?
The only ones winning the only ones winning there are the attorneys.
Yeah. Although we're seeing on these television shows like this, like The Profit, as well as Shark Tank, is to see that companies that have gone from $250,000 up to $6 million, up to $8 million, and it's like, okay, so the alliance is pulling its weight.
Right, and you do. I mean, for companies to grow, you do need capital. You do need investment.
Right.
And if you reach a point where you're looking for partnership, it's probably because you need the financial support.
Right. Yeah.
Probably.
The financial support, and it can help you to get a major leap forward, like it did with these guys. What do you think about Rob Dyrdek being brought in?
I love Rob.
I love Rob.
Hey Rob.
Hey Rob. We love ridiculousness. That's
I want to go to the Fantasy Factory. One of my to-dos on my checklist of being in LA is going to the Fantasy Factory and jumping in the bin and skateboarding at the Fantasy Factory. I love the fact that Marcus knows the exact partners to bring in, not just for advice.
But this makes for good TV too, right?
But
do you think Marcus really knew this guy, or do you think Marcus is producers?
The producers
knew, but the producers knew, but I'm sure they knew of each other. They're both great businessmen, and I don't think
it's teamwork. However, it came together.
I like seeing Marcus on the skateboard, though. I thought the longboard.
Rob was a great business perspective to bring on the show, not just because, I mean, like I said, skateboarding and longboarding are relative.
Right.
But
so he's a former skateboarding champion.
Yeah.
Host of Ridiculousness. He's an entrepreneur. He's got a lot of major entrepreneur.
Like he is the man in the skateboarding world when it comes to a business side of things. And so Rob knew exactly what to do. He told him his price point was off. He told him that his demographic was off.
He shut Mike down, didn't he?
And Rob kind of parroted exactly what Marcus had said.
And
this was coming from a credible source that I think Marcus hoped Mike would find credible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Which,
Mike
Mike didn't really.
But did you guys notice
He wasn't
that Mike,
open to listening to
I think he was excited, but his ego was in the way. He wouldn't show it
Mike
too much. But
didn't smile in this episode. Mike did not smile until he was sitting in front of Rob.
Right.
If you go back and watch it again, Mike was straight face mafia.
Observant today.
Very
What is
observant.
up
Straight
with
face
you?
mafia the whole episode
Yeah.
up until he was sitting in front of Rob Dyrdek, and then he started to smile and explain the brand and product and things like that. But I thought Rob had some great points. I think he was the perfect person to ask as far as advice for this specific industry, and they walked away with great information and ways to move forward so that Marcus didn't have to continue fighting.
Yeah.
He knew the market.
He knew the market, and as we think about the market, the information, ways to move forward. One of the ways you can move forward with us is to go to iTunes. Katerina, tell them how they can find us on iTunes.
So you can find us on iTunes. You can
AfterBuzz TV.
Thank you, AfterBuzz TV.
The Profit.
The Profit, or you can find us on social media via the Twitter or the hashtag handle, which is also hashtag The Profit.
Yeah, and so by all means, we want to engage you in the conversation too. So I want to get more of your engagement.
Hit
So
us up. Let us know if you're a longboard fan or a skateboard fan or a
Longboard or shortboard?
snowboarder.
I don't
Let us know.
Where the hell snowboarding come into the mix?
I gotta plug my Canadianism. Hey, come on.
It's weird because one day you're Canadian, one day you're Greek. I don't know what the.
You gotta keep a little.
Greek
You
salad.
gotta keep
A
a
lot of
little.
razzle dazzle. She just got
Razzle
whatever
dazzle.
she
I got
wants
whatever
going
I
on.
want.
She got it all.
But no, we would like to hear from you. So
do.
hit us up if you're into boarding.
Yes, and say hello. Let us know if you have any insights or
Surfboarding.
insights that we've missed out on here. We can't catch it all. We need your brain. The global brain awakens. So let us
Right.
know if you have insights, understandings, things that you think that really stood out in the episode that we've missed. So do engage with us. iTunes, you can do it intravenously, or you can do it also leave some messages in your comments under YouTube. Yeah, under the videos. So when we let's look at in the end. As they looked at the whole business, what do you think were the greatest impacts that Marcus was able to make in that business? Give me like 2 or 3 that you think, boy, that made an impact.
I will say this. I think one of the key things that changed, that was the major changing and turning point for the business, was when Marcus evaluated his pricing strategy. And what he said was the cost plus marketing and what Mike was initially using as a way to price out the product versus what he called, which is the term market minus strategy, where Mike should have come into the market because he had a specialty product, coming into the market right under what your competitors are pricing your product at, and taking some of their clientele from them.
And to just interject for those that may not remember the numbers, they originally had this longboard priced at over $350. And they subsequently decided to price it at about $199,
which was more in the range of what Marcus looked at as being the market, which would be what, 9 to 14-year-olds, I think he said.
And you could be competitive that way.
Yes, but not only that, it was a matter of Mike coming up with numbers that just didn't have any. They weren't making sense.
They pulled out of the ethers,
And as easy as it was for him to stand there, as soon as Marcus was asking him, like, okay, so what can we get the wheels down to? What can we get the wood down to? He literally cut all those in half. And
I thought that was neat.
Obvious.
But why would
just that he didn't know what was happening.
Right. It was very
that's what I thought was interesting, how they was able to get the cost, because we had to get, in order to do this, because the boards were sold at what, $349 in that range?
Right, yeah.
In order to get them into a market realm that they would actually sell, we had to bring them down to the $199 price point.
Right.
In order to get them to the $199 price point, we had to make them for less than $100. So,
or at 100, because that's what they came up to $100.
Yeah, which was fascinating. But who knows what order they came, because we heard it thrown out 100, and then they were able to come to that number. Who knows if that happened in that order from a realistic. Or in reality is what I meant to say.
But again, though, when you I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, so what blew me away was that they were able to get to that number 100 by, it seemed to me, was there anything other than buying in bulk, the parts?
No, it was just Mike being greedy.
What can we get these down to if we buy in bulk? But what was greed involved in that?
Where he was pretty much just trying to upcharge everything.
Well, no, because his original cost was much higher.
He didn't have a better margin, though. He was still paying.
His margins were better with Marcus's number, but when it came down to him, like, trying to beat. This is what he was trying to do. When I say greed, I mean this. As opposed to selling your product for $199, which is in the market range of what it should have been cost at, he was trying to sell it for $3 something.
He didn't give a shit? He just wanted to price it there?
He just came up with the number, and he was doing it based off of what his materials were.
But I disagree with you, because I don't think it was greed. I think it was business and experience. And I think this is part of what happens to a lot of small businesses, which is why 80% of small businesses go out of business the first few years, because he just had no business savvy. He wasn't business savvy. He was passionate about longboards.
Right.
But the passion doesn't always translate into the ability to grow a business.
Incredible execution and business
and this
experience.
is exactly what we saw.
I agree with your last point, but back to him, as easy as it was for him to stand there.
He wanted a 65% margin.
Right, but as easy as it was for him to stand there, it wasn't even, yes, he had lack of business knowledge. Right. Agree with that, totally. But as easy as it was for him to
I like how you say but
as easy as it was for him to answer Marcus's questions, and Marcus was confused. So he was like, so we just went over these numbers, and it's obvious that you could have priced the board at a lower number. Right. Why didn't you do it? Right. He was concerned too. So for me, I go back to the point where, like, it wasn't that he didn't know at all, like this was impossible and Marcus had to go find new vendors to get the items to create the product. Right. It wasn't that. Mike had everything he needed as far as like the different vendors, the product, the items to create.
He was just making a lot of assumptions, wasn't he?
He was assuming, and he was being greedy.
Yeah.
To me, and bad business.
Well, again, in his head, he had a demographic of 55-year-old men. So
old
he
guys
assumed
like me
$300 big deal. Would you pay $350
I wasn't actually. I was being Mike for a second. Mike, so I'm being Mike, and he's saying, well, old guys like me. Right. I'm an old guy too, Mike.
Can
so
afford.
I'm not knocking you. But old guys like me that want to ride the skateboard.
Right. Yeah.
We're the people that are going to buy it, and because he liked the skateboards, he thought they were kind of cool. He thought there were a bunch of people like him.
And the price $100 higher than.
But when you do the market research, that's just not there.
Which he had obviously never done.
Yeah, as Rob Dudek pointed out to him, he said, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he said, I looked out there, I researched this, and there were a sum total of 1 million boards that have been sold in the longboard market, and there's only one major competitor out there doing it. But if you sold 1 million boards and there was one, that's not a huge market. That's a very, very small market. You have to wonder if it's even worth competing in.
Right.
But what I thought was brilliant was when Marcus said, let's come out with 2 new lines. And I knew it was coming. That's typical. Let's come out with a shorter board and then an even shorter board where we've got, we can spread the, and get higher margins, and the aggregate total of the margins.
Well, your pie gets bigger,
Your pie gets bigger.
Sure.
Marcus made smart decisions, but in the end, Mike ruined it, and Marcus walked away, and I'm surprised, like you said earlier, that Marcus didn't walk away earlier.
Yeah,
like, I'm surprised he
had a lot of patience.
Really, he absolutely did. Way more than I would have. I would have been like, bye, Mike.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
Okay, let's move on with that.
Yes.
Bye, Felicia. We're moving into
episode
Vision.
17.
Episode 17.
Yes.
So we're getting up there. We're catching up with the actual
Vision,
where we're really supposed to be. We've been doing these back time.
Yeah.
So Vision Quest Lighting, the lighting manufacturer.
Yes. What did you think of the lights?
What did I think of the lights? You know what? I thought they were really cool. I mean, the guy's a designer once again. So these are, we said that there was some thematic linkage between episodes back to back typically. And here we see it again. We saw it with restaurants. Yes. We saw it with, so I like how they kind of concentrate for a little while. Maybe they go out and do their research around that area so that they can focus and provide
models.
Stuff. Careful not to talk over each other, our producer says. He was being polite because he could have said it over the thing. And let all our people know what was being
talking
said.
Over each other.
Yes. But, oh, shoot, I just let everybody know. Okay.
It's okay.
All right.
We can't talk anymore.
Just kidding. Thank you.
So go ahead, Vision.
No, so when so the lighting, I love the lighting. So we thought that they batched them and put them together. They're, and we see that with this one. So both of these guys were great designers. The longboard guy was a great designer.
People that were not good business people.
Yeah, same thing with the lighting guy. He came from a theater background. So I love the lights. When that first one he showed with the spikes coming out, looked very Superman.
And the thing with custom design work, which we saw in both of these, but especially in the lighting episode, when you have custom designed products, you can price higher. And we saw that $5,000 for one of these lights. I mean, that's almost an art piece at this point.
Right, $5,600, which surprised me. I thought it would have had a higher price tag on it.
Even higher.
Frankly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that was one of the issues with the business owner, is that his pricing was off, which was why the business was
he had
losing
the opposite
money.
Problem.
Yeah,
Right.
the business was losing money because he was coming up with these numbers that didn't make sense. He was a great creative person on a business perspective, but he was not good with numbers and not a good business person.
And so same problem, right?
But what was good about him, and totally different within these two episodes between 16 and 17, was that he was actually a good person, like a nice person, and he genuinely, from his heart, like his intention was good.
And you could see that was permeating out of the screen for me.
Yeah.
He was a nice person.
Yeah, and I was
really
just waiting on a tear to drop. I really was. I was just waiting on him to shed a tear in that factory because he was like a hoarder.
It was, and it was evidenced through the fact that, I mean, he was letting people go because he couldn't pay for those people. He was taking this whole big burden. He was carrying it on his shoulders.
What did you think of his argument, though, that he was putting the capital into inventory so that he could be proactive and ready?
It's not a good argument. It's never a good argument. Yeah.
It was just like, okay, I'm gonna cut my leg off to spite. It just didn't make sense at the end of the day. Like, keeping the people would have made more sense as opposed to investing that money into just more stuff
that sits. Yeah, because that's always what happens.
It was a warehouse full of stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to have the inventory problem where the inventory has to catch up with the demand. That's a great problem to have.
Yeah, that's way better.
Pent up demand is beautiful to have. But when you look at him, once again, he's a creative type. And so I think we get that the creative types can't do it all on their own. They need a support team to do it. What were some other challenges that you may have recognized inside this one, Katerina? What do you see?
For this one, it was definitely the people issue, and it was also, I questioned how he decided to keep a lot of this from his wife, who was also part of the business.
Yeah.
That upset me a little bit, because not only is this your wife, okay, she's doing one thing, but this is your business partner. So for her not to have understood that he put his house up as collateral, that's a problem. It's not.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, what do you think?
But I agree to a certain extent, but I feel like she wasn't as active in the business as, like the husband and wife team, we didn't see her actively in the space or at the factory at all. So I felt like she was more of his just wife and partner as opposed to a business partner, because it didn't make sense. She had no like valid position or whatever. And if she wanted to be more active, I'm not sure where her personal situation was as far as dealing with the kids and stuff, but she could have been at the office, maybe taking one of the jobs off of, one of his other managers and
she could have been helping. You're saying
out.
she didn't
She
seem
could
to
have
be
physically been there helping, to take some of the
she
pressure
might have
off
some
of him.
more say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again,
if that
we
was
don't
my
know her
husband,
personal situation.
if it was my husband, and on the surface of what we know, if it was my husband, I would have had my butt in that office every morning, every night. How we getting this money, honey? Because ain't nobody got time to be putting our house up. Don't play them games. No.
So, biggest impact. What do you think? Because we got about 6 minutes left here before we get a. So, what do you think is the biggest impact in this episode?
You know what I really noticed was when, and part of what I loved about this episode is they brought in Pete's. From one of the former episodes, Pete's the candy shop. But what I really noticed was when they brought him into Pete's to do the lighting work, you saw his creativity come out. You saw where his passion lay, and you saw the results in the work that he delivered.
Yeah.
So that to me was just a clear-cut sign of stick with what you're good at, figure out what you're weak in, which areas you're weak in, and find the support that you need to get through that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right? You see it with great businessmen. They don't do their own tax accounting. They just don't.
Yeah.
They don't do their own legal work. They find the people that specialize in that, and they can stick to their specialty, which is
absolutely
whatever it is they choose to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
What you think, Niena?
This was a perfect episode of The Profit, the show. It was a great example of a genuinely good at heart business owner who felt like he had a great idea, great concept, great product, but he just needed to fulfill the holes in the business that he lacked. And I felt like it was a great example and a good way for Marcus to bring in his, one of his other investors and investment companies.
That was fun to see. I enjoyed this episode.
And it was this was like the epitome of the prophet, because
this episode had some heart.
He helped his past, you know, client, and then he also client and partner, and he also brought in a new client and partner. They were able to come to terms, and the humility of who the business owner was able to take a backseat to the big picture of making the business profitable and making it successful. And that was the beauty of this episode. And I think it was, you know, one of my favorite Prophet episodes. I was just waiting on a tear to drop.
Teardrops.
What did you think of it, Chris?
Those are like lemon drops. Yeah, lemon drops and Sweet Pete's.
What did you think of the cool gummy bear light?
Oh, I love it.
I love the gummy bear light. The gummy bear light made me happy.
Yeah, and
it was great.
You could see, I'm with you, like you could see he was happy.
He was
you could
happy.
see, you know, the
his wife.
Yeah, the whole team was happy. They're able to infuse it, and if you haven't seen the episode yet, you should watch it. They went into Sweet Pete's, which is a candy shop, which is another one of Marcus's businesses that he's been turning around, and he did that on another episode. But they were launching the opening, the grand opening of Sweet Pete's, which is the candy store, and they brought the lighting in there.
They were remodeling the store a little bit,
Absolutely, and they were able to bring the lighting in, and they were able to do the big grand opening with the lighting. And I think that I think Marcus was absolutely necessary in terms of stepping in once again, because they were in a lot of trouble.
Dire straits.
You know, this guy had done a lot of lightings they did lighting for Abercrombie. How do you say it?
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Abercrombie and Fitch. For Chanel. For who else was he on there with? He had done Chanel, he had done Abercrombie. There was another. Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Universal Studios. Yeah, he did some lights.
All commercial, not any retail, just all commercial clients.
Yep. What do you think was the biggest impact that Marcus made in this episode?
I think keeping the family together, honestly. Not just keeping the business together, but keeping that family together, because I could see them, you know, ending in a very negative way if Marcus had not stepped in and brought his expertise to the table and relieved some of that stress and brought honesty to the table.
Yeah. For me, it was him and Marcus pointing out where the holes lay. For example, you don't have the proper equipment.
Yeah.
Take some of the money you spent on inventory and buy the proper equipment, and the savings that can result because of the equipment, the labor cost savings and the hour, the time was incredible.
Substantial, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also bringing in, so they've got a new, he hired out. So Larry hired out and got a new director, or a new person that was in charge. And that seemed to make a big difference. Like, everybody was happy that Larry wasn't
physically there.
Physically there and freaking out.
Yeah.
Micromanaging.
So he didn't have to micromanage, and he wasn't acting in a reactive, fear-based place in terms of putting out fires, because there was somebody there that could hold the space for everybody.
And that allowed him to remain the creative one.
Yeah. Which you know, I think we saw that in both episodes, that if both of the owners, the business owners, would have taken that approach, you'd have a lot better place. I think the first episode, the Longboards, they would have made it happen if they could have been as open to bringing in other people and other players and propping up the people that were really going to make it happen.
They didn't even need to bring anybody in, though. They had a great team.
Their team was good.
They had a great core team.
Their team was good.
Hey, Chris. Chris was a cutie, too.
Chris was awesome.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, we have a date for you. Niena, Chris.
No, Chris was cute, but he's in Nevada.
To that point, they were a really good team, weren't they? He was sharp. Chris was sharp.
I would hire all of them.
All you had to do was get out of their way.
And Marcus tried to.
Yeah. So hire out for your weak spots, I think, is the big learning for this one.
Yeah.
All right, we got to wrap.
Be honest.
Yeah, be honest and don't be greedy, you said.
Yes.
So share the wealth, right? Share it with the people that are building the dream.
Right.
All right. Want to thank you for being here with us on AfterBuzz TV. We got to pull it wraps here because Niena has another show to go do. You can catch her on there. Until next week, we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel. Except this is the AfterBuzz channel. So we'll see you there
next week.
No. Tell us where they can reach us.
Oh, where can you reach us? Katerina Cozias, Twitter and Instagram @.
Niena Drake on everything and NienaDrake.com.
It's not on everything. It's on everything. And you can reach me at Chris Howard @Chris Howard Live on Instagram and Twitter. Leave us a note. Say hi. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.